The Aramaic and Palestinian Targum, Numbers chapter 16, Torah portion, KORAEH. But KORAEH, bar Titzhar, bar Keheth, bar Levi, with Dathan and Amram, the sons of Eliab, and on bar Peleth of the Beni Reuben, took his robe, which was all of hyacinth, and rose up boldly, and in the face of Moshe appointed a different observance in the manner of the hyacinth. Jerusalem. And KORAEH took counsel and made division. Moshe had said, I have heard from the mouth of the Holy One, whose name be blessed, that the fringes are to be of white, with one filament of hyacinth. Oh, but KORAEH and his companions made garments with their fringes altogether of hyacinth, which the Lord had not commanded. And 250 men of the sons of Israel, who had been made leaders of the congregation at that time, when the journeys and encampments were appointed, by expression of their names, supported him. And they gathered together against Moshe and Aaron, and said to them, Let the authority you have suffice you, for all the congregation are holy, and the Lord's Shekinah dwelleth among them. And why should you be magnified over the church of the Lord? And Moshe heard, as if every one of them was jealous of his wife, and would have them drunk of the trial water on account of Moshe. And he fell on his face with shame, and he spake with KORAEH and all the company who supported him, saying, In the morning the Lord will make known him whom he hath approved, and hath consecrated to approach unto his service, and who it hath pleased him should come nigh in ministering unto him. Do this. Let KORAEH and all the company of his helpers take censers, put fire in them, and lay incense upon them before the Lord tomorrow. And the man whom the Lord shall make known, he it is who is consecrated. Let it suffice to you, sons of Levi. And Moshe said to KORAEH and his kindred, Hear now, ye sons of Levi, is it too little for you that the God of Israel hath set you apart from the congregation of Israel, to draw near to do his service, to fulfill the ministry of the Lord's tabernacle, and to stand before the congregation to minister to them? But so hath he brought nigh thee, and all the sons of Levi with thee, and now do ye demand the high priesthood also? Therefore art thou and all the company of thy helpers gathered together against the word of the Lord. And Aaron, what is he that you murmur against him? And Moshe sent men to summon Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, to the house of the great judgment. But they said, We will not come up. Is it a little thing that thou hast brought us from Mizraim, a land that produced milk and honey, to kill us in the wilderness, that ruling thou mayest domineer over us? Neither hast thou brought us into the land producing milk and honey, to give us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Wilt thou blind the eyes of the men in that land, that thou mayest overcome them? We shall not go thither. And Moshe was very wroth, and said before the Lord, I beseech thee, look not upon their offering, the portion of their hands, for not an ass have I taken from one of them, nor to any of them an injury. Jerusalem. And it was very grievous to Moshe, and he said before the Lord, Regard not the portion of their hands, For not an ass have I taken from one of them, nor to one of them done wrong. And Moshe said to KORAEH, Thou and all the company of thy helpers come together to the house of judgment before the Lord tomorrow, thou, they, and Aaron. And take every one his censer, and put incense upon them, and let each offer his censer before the Lord, 250 censers, thou also, and Aaron, each man his censer. And they took every one his censer, and put fire in them, and sweet incense in it, and stood at the door of the tabernacle of ordinance on one side, but Moshe and Aaron on the other side. And KORAEH gathered to them the whole congregation at the door of the tabernacle, and he had brought forth from his riches 2 treasures, which he had found among the treasures of Joseph, filled with silver and gold, and sought with them to drive the riches of Moshe and Aaron out of the world. But the glory of the Lord revealed itself to all the congregation. And the Lord spake with Moshe and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may destroy them quickly. But they bowed down their faces in prayer and said, Eloah, who has put the spirit of life in the bodies of the children of men, and from whom is given the spirit of all flesh. If one man hath sinned, wilt thou be guilty with all the congregation? Jerusalem. And they bowed on their faces and said, O God, who rulest over the spirit of all flesh, if one man had sinned, wilt thou be wroth against all the people? And the Lord spake with Moshe, saying, I have accepted thy prayer for the congregation. Now speak thou with them, saying, Remove away from the tents of KORAEH, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moshe arose and went to remonstrate with Dathan and Abiram. And the elders of Israel followed, and he said to the congregation, Remove now away from the tents of these men of sin, who have been worthy of death from the days of their youth in Mizraim. For they betrayed my secret when I slew the Mizraite. They provoked the Lord at the sea. Alas, they profaned the Sabbath. And now they are gathered together against the word of the Lord. And therefore it is fit that their wealth should be scattered abroad and destroyed. Touch not then anything that is theirs. Be not smitten on account of their sins. And they went apart from the tents of KORAEH, Dathan, and Abiram round about. But Dathan and Abiram came out with reviling words, and arose and provoked Moshe at the door of their tents, with their wives, their sons, and with their little ones. And Moshe said, By this you shall know that the Lord hath sent me to do all these works, and that I do them not from the thoughts of my heart. If these men die after the manner of dying, in which all men die, and the common account of all men be accounted upon them, the Lord hath not sent me. Jerusalem. For not with my own heart have I devised them. If these die by the death with which the sons of men die, on the account of all men be accounted upon them, the Lord hath not sent me. But if a death which hath not been created since the days of this world be now created for them, and if a mouth for the earth, which hath not been made from the beginning, be created now, and the earth open up and swallow them, and they go down alive into Sheol, you will understand that these men have provoked the Lord to anger. And it came to pass, when he had finished speaking these words, the earth beneath them clave asunder, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up. and the men of their houses, and all the men who adhered to KORAEH, and all their substance. And they went down with all that they had alive into Sheol, and the earth closed upon them. And they perished from amidst the congregation. And all Israel who were round about them fled from the terror of their voice, as they cried and said, Righteous is the Lord, and his judgment is truth, and the words of his servant Moshe are truth. But we are wicked, who have rebelled against him. And the children of Israel fled when they heard. For they said, lest the earth swallow us up. And a fire came out in wrath from before the Lord, and devoured the 250 men who offered the incense. And the Lord spake with Moshe, saying, Bid Eleazar bar Aaron, the priest, to take away the censers from among the burnings, and scatter the fire hither and thither. For the censers of these guilty men who have been punished by the destruction of their lives are consecrated. And make of them broad plates for the covering of the altar, because they bear them before the Lord. Therefore they are consecrate, and they shall be for a sign to the children of Israel. And Eleazar the priest took the brazen censers, which they who had been burned had carried, and beat them out for a covering for the body of the altar, as they had before used them for the service of the altar, for a memorial to the sons of Israel, that no common man who is not of the sons of Aaron may offer incense before the Lord, and that no man should behave himself factitiously to obtain the priesthood, as did KORAEH and the company of his helpers, and whose end would be to perish, not indeed like a death like that of KORAEH and his company, by being burned by fire and being swallowed up by the earth, but punished with leprosy. As when the Lord said to Moshe, Put thy hand into thy bosom, and his hand was stricken with leprosy, so would it be with him. But on the following day the whole congregation murmured against Moshe and Aaron, saying, You have been the occasion of the judgment of death against the people of the Lord. And it was that when the congregation had gathered against Moshe and Aaron to kill them, they looked towards the tabernacle of ordinance, and, behold, the cloud of the glory of the Shekinah covered it, and the glory of the Lord was revealed there. And Moshe and Aaron went from the congregation to the door of the tabernacle. And the Lord spake with Moshe, saying, Separate from the midst of this congregation, and I will consume them at once. But they bowed themselves on their faces in prayer. And Moshe and Aaron take the censer and put in it the fire of the altar and sweet incense of the fire. Bear it quickly into the congregation to make atonement for them, for a destruction like that which consumed them in Horeb, whose name is burning, hath begun by commandment to kill from the presence of the Lord. And Aaron took, as Moshe had said, and ran into the midst of the congregation, and behold, the destructive burning had begun to destroy the people. But he put on incense and made atonement for the people, and Aaron stood in the midst, between the dead and the living, with the censer, and interceded in prayer, and the plague was restrained. But the number who had died by the plague was 14,700, beside those who had died in the schism of KORAEH. And Aaron returned to Moshe at the door of the tabernacle, and the plague was stayed. Holy be his name.